All right, Neal, Phalora, Neo, baby, Neo. Let's
That's right,
go.
brother. That's right. I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. So I have a major announcement to make this morning before we jump in here. I just want to tell everybody who's watching that the update is that I'm a trust fund baby, meaning I trust that I can create my funds.
Let's go. Let's go.
I
A little bit
wish.
different than what we hear typically.
Yeah, man. When we're doing this thing, I love to talk about the that funds are fundamentally mental, right? Is that we don't understand that. We all think like, oh, I got to just do a bunch of shit. I'm going to create revenue and I'm going to get there. And when I get there, that'll just take care of everything. It'll solve everything. We're just leaning into the wrong thing that doesn't create sustainable wealth.
What does sustainable mean to you? How do you define sustainable?
Yeah. So what it means is that one, we're not subjected to the linear hustle because that's just burnout, right? So a lot of people, you can completely just grate yourself into pulverize yourself, right, into 25 years of hustling, but then you end up fundamentally, spiritually, mentally, physically broke, right?
Of
But
course.
sustainability is like, okay, well, do I understand in my wealth equation what else adds into that? And primarily it's impact, it's fulfillment, it's relationships, it's worthiness, it's revenue. It's an and conversation. But if you don't have the other parts of this wealth matrix, I don't know why, Jim. I don't know why we all have to learn this the hard way, right? How many Hollywood celebrities, how many freaking moguls will just tell you like, and then the thing that I love the best is that they make their money, they get up on stage, and this is not a negative on them, and then they're like, "Hey guys, this is not the answer," and we're all like, "Uh huh," but internally we're like, I'm just gonna go make a bunch of money, and it's gonna cure everything. It's like when your relationships is bad, and you're like, I know what we should do. We should have a kid.
Funny you bring that up. A recent friend of mine uh, had somewhat gone through that recently, so it's pretty much on my brain. But
Yeah.
it doesn't solve the problem, right? It's and the same friend of mine. We were just chatting the other day around like we're a mirror, right? So like
Yes.
if we're broken, we view things broken. If we're upset, we view people upset with us. If we're sad, we see the negative or the sadness in conversation, right?
Yes.
And I think for me, it's a choice, right? And you and I have talked about this, like happiness is a choice, and controlling or not necessarily controlling, but focusing and giving attention to your mindset, to your perspective, to your impact, right? And like
Mhm.
it's a choice sometimes, and it's a hard choice, right? There's discipline in that. There's reality, right? Like,
Right.
you know, I just went through this. Someone was going to sponsor the conference coming up next month and was really jazzed up and excited, and I was excited, and it was, pretty significant amount of money. And it couldn't happen. Something changed, right? Last minute, which is totally fine and totally cool. So I could have went at that perspective of like upset or negative, but it was just a positive roll off into the next thing. And then we brought in a new sponsor, right? And then we sold, 22 tickets. And it's like, cool. Okay. Well, I could have looked at this as negative. I could have looked at this from a perspective of, oh man, shame, guilt, upset, anger, but I got to control that, and it took discipline, right? Because my immediate reaction was like, fuck. Fuck.
Yes. Yeah. Of course.
you know um, but then you switch up the opportunity and look at it from a different lens. So I love the trust fund commentary because I also saw your Facebook post and was like, yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's time to bring some humor back, bro. I've just been too serious for too long, and that's the thing about, to keep the wordplay going is that funds can be fun, right? But it's all serious, right? It's all like, it's serious all the time. And I'll just tell you, you and I've known each other for a while. One of my best months in business was when was having the most fun. I mean, I was on fire. I was being a great dad. I was doing things. I had stuff planned that month where I was like actually going out and feeding myself, creating, giving myself my own personal identity, which we all need as parents, right? Um, and I was like, man, this is. I had one of my clients say this just recently as well. They said making money is easy. Well, it is easy, and I know that probably chaps some people's behinds when you say that, but it is easy when it becomes a part of your life and it's not this separate thing that you're always bumping and grinding up against and feeling scarce about. I mean, the thing is that people don't understand that the way that you can never create abundance from scarcity. You have to go from scarcity to safety, and from safety you can create abundance. People are missing that step in between.
Now, with that safety or that concept, tell me more around that. Like, is that a something that we're just naturally prone to, or is that something that we've got to discipline or work, or how do you
It's
feel about that?
yeah. How I feel about it is it's freaking terrifying to try to think about those things because we just want to go from, okay, well, I'm in scarcity, and then I want to somehow be abundant, and we don't want the middle step.
Yeah.
But I would just pan people back to the easiest way to figure out where safety is either if you've been a kid, have a kid, or know a kid, right? To see how they just kind of trust the world around them. Somewhere in the adult construct, we start to get scarce. And I've seen this in business. I used to be, in my former life, used to be in and out of medium and small business as a biz dev guy all the time, and big ones. And as soon as people went from idea to product to passion, and then they started to get some money, all the buttholes puckered. Because
Shrunk.
now we have something to lose. And then also business became a lot harder. The revenue started to dive off. And so one aspect of safety, really one aspect of generating safety is leaning into the fact that Jim, there is no position on earth that mitigates risk. You can hide in a fucking closet so that nothing happens to you, and those people actually have more shit go wrong.
Yeah.
So
Well,
if
your
you
internal system, right, is completely out of whack when you're hiding in a closet, so to say. Neal's stepping out the closet today. Jim and Neal are stepping out that closet. We stepped out of that closet a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll just do you one better. Part of creating safety is declaring something out loud in front of other people that most people won't declare. Because let me just ask you a question. If you are telling people, hey, if you're trying to do something and you're fronting like, hey, this is what I'm about, but you're unwilling to just say it out loud or declare it or to really go for it or burn the boats, right? Which is where a lot of people go wrong in their ability to generate funds is they're like, well, I'll do this thing, but you know what? I'm going to try for a side hustle and maybe I'll make some money. Or every time that you see a advertisement for easy money, you're like, oh, TikTok ads, I could do that. $3,000 to $5,000 a month, I could use that. That is eroding your ability to feel safe.
I was gonna say that's not necessarily working in your favor.
No, not whatsoever. Not whatsoever.
What so it's funny you were talking about humor and you started off today this conversation around humor and fun and play and referring back to, having children and looking at and reflecting on younger self and all that, right? And it's, Rich Redmond, who's going to be one of our speakers at the conference next month, 64 hit songs as a drummer with Jason Aldean,
Yeah.
Just powerhouse, right? We were talking yesterday. He's doing arena shows. It started from 280 shows a year. Now they're doing like 40, right? And they're filling arenas, 25, 35,000 people. And I was asking him the same thing, like, man, you've been seeing a lot. You've traveled a lot. Like, you've been around all these folks. How do you sustain? How do you be you? And he's like, focusing on my inner child, man. Like having fun and enjoying it and just getting out there and being me and enthusiastic and what I would do at 10 years old. And it's so in line with our conversation right now. And that was 20 hours ago we had that conversation, and
Let's go.
it's one of those things where it's like, okay, we've got the right speakers on stage, we've got the right people in the room next month. The alignment is so detailed and intentional that there's going to be this cohesive journey that all fits beautifully from a content standpoint, interaction, experiential standpoint. And I'm just fired up, man. Like I'm just fired up. I keep seeing these amazing synergies in my conversations with everyone, and there's just so much alignment and excitement around it. So I'm just excited to have
brother.
you on stage and some of the other folks next month. It's going to be
You know
amazing.
what I'm really experiencing too is how much everybody wants this to be their best speech ever. Like I'm doing more work for this. I have freaking literally like wadded up the virtual paper like 5 different times. Like, this is not what I want to talk about. And I'm like, Neal, I think the best talks come from the fact that where you push yourself to discover or learn something much greater in the process.
Of course.
And so I get this feeling like everybody's leaning into this, like they want this to be their like opus, right? This is like the speech for them, right? To just come and smash it. And I know that's how I'm looking at it as well. I mean, selfishly, I'm like, look, what can I discover about me? What kind of energy? I'm working on my energy as well. When I come out on the stage, I do this process with other people. It's not like I'm a speaker coach, but I have. It's like, what are the 3 to 5 words that I want to generate when I'm on stage? And how do I embody that? More than anything else, right? Is just come out and just a huge degree of vulnerability, a huge degree of power, a huge degree of possibility, right? Something is possible in this moment. Who's willing to receive that right now? Who's willing to put down their damn phone and all their other distractions right now? And let's get something done right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's powerful when you put that level of intentionality and focus into anything, right? Like and as far as like you're talking about, what's that emotion, that feeling, it's interesting when you look at every aspect of a speech, every aspect of critical thinking, analysis, and ensuring that it all relates back to that emotion or that feeling, right? Like, my TED Talk on the 19th next month is I want people to feel alive. I want people to feel human, right? And like I went through it the other night. I got to go through it again tonight. And it's just one of those amazing opportunities to just rip something apart and keep focusing on it and enhancing and enhancing. And you're 100% right. All our speakers, we've been talking a lot the last week or two, and we've got some meetings coming up this week, and it's the level of intensity is high, and that's a good thing. That's a high vibration. That's a high energy. That's alignment. That's everybody's just pouring with enthusiasm around it. And I think that's the magic within it, right? When the speakers are fired up, when they're dedicated, when they're intentional, when they know that this is a unique experience for the attendees and they pour it all out, man, we're unstoppable, right? Those 2 days are going to be freaking crazy. I'm fired up, man.
Yeah. You're not gonna have a choice to you're not gonna have a choice to be able to sit in the friendly fire of all this intentionality and spirituality and transformation. The question to the audience is, are you willing to receive?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's going to be there for
Totally.
sure. Yeah.
Totally. Neal, when it comes to leadership, you've had different roles, you've had different experiences, you've grown businesses, you've helped people grow businesses, you've unlocked certain parts of their inner self and their motivation and their inspiration and understanding and feeling the emotion and moving through it. All those things you've done, those stages, those workshops, those masterminds, the corporate route, the sales meetings, the victories, the losses, what leadership skill or quality do you think has risen in those moments where you needed to lead, you needed to be the person that blazed the path or created the opportunity? Is there anything that comes to mind that you could boil down a majority of those situations or scenarios or opportunities to impact others around leadership? Like, is there any quality that pops in your mind, or any thought that just you're downloading around leadership that you've seen consistently when you've stepped into that quality or that asset that you've built or created?
Yeah, I could easily make a list, but let's put the one at the top. It's emotional intelligence and
Yeah.
empathy. That's it. People want to lead from a place of superiority and intelligence and vision that transcends other people. Those are good, but honestly, it's that,
Yeah.
because I'll tell you why. Because when I get empathetic, I have to check my fucking ego at the door. I don't get to be Neal and all his image and I'm right and I'm leading and all the other things that I have. I get to go, okay, can I get myself out of this equation and put the other person first? And that's the easiest way. I mean, people talk about neutrality. It's a lot harder to do neutrality. That's a great subject that I coach on. But really, if you're empathetic, if you hold your emotional intelligence higher, it doesn't mean that you buy into everybody's emotion. What that means is that you're sensing with what's going on with the person in front of you, and you're helping, providing a space for them to feel through it and guide them into the next possibility. Because strong arming people who are not on board, if we buy on emotion and we have to justify with logic, if people are 4 times more likely to enter in any relationship through emotion, then that's a leadership skill.
Totally. Totally. Well, it talks about kind of brings me back to the theme of lead with human connection, right? And I think what you're talking about is active listening, compassionate curiosity, right? You're talking about those elements that are just often lost in conversation, often lost in relationship, understanding the win-win, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
Um,
I talk in some of my things, I talk about sort of the elements of wealth, and one of them is radical empathy, but the other one you just mentioned is curiosity. And I'll say this is the best leadership skill, sales skill you have out there. Too many people are not curious for long enough. They're just assuming. Tell me more about that. What do you mean? Well, why is that important to you? Wow, well, what I'm hearing is that true? It's those kinds of things. If we can be curious longer, I mean, you and I both have a similar mentor person in our lives who always says, be more interested than interesting.
yeah,
That's it.
yeah. It's I was doing a workshop last week on human connection, and I've got one today or next or tomorrow. And one of the things that I put together and we just sent out to another group of folks was how to frame and use context, right? Like,
Mhm.
how to frame and use context in
Yeah,
your conversations and
yeah,
your connection. And I think that's a big piece of where you're going with the empathy side of it, the active listening, the curiosity, because at the end of the day, you can engage in a conversation, you can ask questions, you can do all the things, but it may not fit the moment, right? And like as I was navigating this concept and working through questions, someone was like, "Hey, can you send me all the questions?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." But here's the thing. If you don't understand context, if you don't understand timing, and if you don't understand framing based on emotional intelligence, based on body language, right?
yes,
We know this from last conference last year with Janine Driver. Body language happens 5 seconds prior to verbal communication, right?
yes,
So if you're not picking up on these things, and this isn't rocket science. Like when everybody talks about body language and emotional intelligence, I don't think it's rocket science. I think there's a skill that you can fine tune, but I think that innate natural ability to care and to have compassion and to be that mirror, like we talked about, where you're giving love and receiving love and understanding that that's the unifying bond in this world amongst humanity and humanizing. Man, if you just do that and really just care and check yourself before you open your mouth and think, right? That's something I often mess up sometimes, Neil. I get excited and I'm blah, 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 blah. And I'm
yes,
like,
yeah,
man, if I just shut the hell up and thought about this, I'd have a way more clear thought and have more impact, right? But like our natural ability is to go, go, go and hustle, hustle, hustle. And
yeah,
we live off this adrenaline culture and this cortisol and this, you know,
Well,
in our face, action all day, every day, you know?
we think our words are really important. There was a study that showed that like servers who serve tables, one of them just said, "Great, thank you, great order," right? Was reaffirming, and the other ones just repeated back what the customer said, and the ones that just repeated back the other person's words made substantially more tips.
Yeah.
And so while you don't want to be that sort of overt and sort of unconscious about it, but what we're basically saying is hold space for other people, shut the hell up, listen way more. I've had, I remember being on a
I
introductory
call it
coaching.
looping.
Yes.
You loop the conversation to show clarity, and we're actively listening, and it gives this emotional mirror neuron of like, we're on the same page, right? Like, I
Yeah.
feel good, a little bit better about you. You actually heard me. None of this happens verbally, right? This is all subconscious too.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
Absolutely.
cut you off. You got me excited. See, I don't shut up sometimes.
Yeah, dude, come on, man. Be a better leader. Kidding. You're great, man. But no, I forgot where I was going with that. But it is really, really an important skill. And when we realize that it's not what we have to say, it's who we're being. It's who you're being in the leadership role. It's who you're being in the sales conference. It's who you're being when you're meeting with your team, right? It's who you're being when you're being a dad. It's your beingness, your come from that's going to make the difference.
Totally.
So, well, brother, I got to drop off here soon. I just want to tell people that like I couldn't be more excited to do this with you. I really, honestly, like I've spoken a lot of places, I've done a lot of things. This is really going to be a cool event. And honestly, I mean, selfishly, I'm just kind of looking for a little bit of that like summer camp effect, right? We get together, we hang out, we have some dinner. I meet some really good people. I see some tears. I have some hugs. I have some really unexpected things happen, which has happened to me almost every time that I've ever had one of your events, right? And just like let it rip, man. It's going
Let
to be
it
so
rip.
cool. Yeah.
Let's go. Well, thanks, brother. I appreciate you jumping on today, and we'll see everybody at Impact Effect 24 next month,
I'll
September
be there.
17th and 18th.
Let's go. Take care.
Thanks, y'all.